Good morning all, and welcome to the first panel discussion. Today we are discussing a topic that sits in the heart of the modern software development, which is next-gen AppSec, automating security without slowing down the release cycle. So organization today face a unprecedented challenge. The business is looking for a fast release, continuous innovation, and adoption of new technologies which, with the new APIs or GenAI or technologies coming into the development SDLC life cycle. And on the other hand, cybersecurity professionals in the organizations are facing the challenge of to counter the cyber security threat, which is new threats which are evolving, and the regulatory requirement with a limited team size, you can say right now. So what organizations are striving today is to embed the security seamlessly into the software development. And over the next 45 minutes, we are going to discuss the esteemed panel speakers will be sharing their perspective on the how they can build a capable AppSec program and automate security operations and embed the GenAI technologies. So thank you all for being part of the panel. Let's dive into the discussion. So my first question is to Dattatray. So where should organization prioritize their AppSec automation investment to achieve the maximum reduction in the risk while maintaining the development velocity, vulnerability, and infrastructure security, or you can say runtime protection?
First one, right? The investment you're saying, right?
Yeah, so you can cover the development velocity, vulnerability, or infrastructure security combined together.
See, I mean, there are multiple aspects to that. I mean,
so the AppSec investment model covering all this area, overall it should be part of that.
So, see, when you talk about the complete development to the velocity aspect of whatever we do on the application side, just think of something like Mythos is hitting you while you are into the development of applications, and you have absolutely no ways but to see the vulnerabilities, the plethora of vulnerabilities, and you have to just react to that. How are you going to do that thing? I mean, it is very difficult. It is not only difficult but cumbersome at the same time. How do you have that complete mechanism developed? And that's where the speed, the technique, the development, the technology, tools, and everything comes into the picture. So now we have to start very meticulously to see what all those things which we are really developing, right from code to cloud. I mean, what kind of things you're developing, what kind of tools you have, what kind of scanning you are doing, what kind of auto remediations you have. So let's developers have all those SOPs embedded into their complete workflow, that these are all things they have to really do. And security come and do some kind of this testing, scanning with developer himself. So that's how we can have the complete system developed, and that will be the best approach to have the complete secure app development part. And that is what viewpoint I have.
Thank you. Anup, you can.
Yeah, so good morning all, and thanks Contact for inviting me on for this event. Well, before I get into the answer of this particular question, I will give some context where I'm coming from. So obviously I have seen this AppSec, area from last 25 years. And, Sudhir just touched upon the traditional part of the application security. When, there were SVNs and there were, development guys on-prem doing development, and then release, it was very definite what output is to be looked at, etc. And look at now. and I'm telling you this 25 years, the problem still remains unsolved. Still the application security guys have problems with patching. Still there are issues with coding. So we talked a lot about changing the coder culture, getting security into it, but still it remains as a challenge. So imagine 20, 25 years, the challenge remains, the vulnerability remains on the application. And top of it now, you have complexities such as cloud coming in, which has its own complexities with respect to misconfiguration, etc. Then on top of it, there are APIs which is extending to the supply chain. Then on top of it, you have remote access. So all the developers are accessing certain things remotely. And now with AI coming in, it's like 10x challenges. Okay, so you already had a basic challenge with you, and then you have layers of challenges coming along on top of it. So imagine the complexity has increased a lot. And I think that's what you will hear voicing out during these sessions also. Okay. Then obviously, this entire changes in a positive way also help the developers to streamline things, to optimize the effort. But the pressures are still building. Okay, it's not something that it has gone down. The business also is demanding things which it used to demand in months, now in days and hours. So the developers also at stress. From a CISO perspective, okay, what I see is that in all these complexities, I have to navigate, or a CISO has to navigate a path where it still becomes an enabler for the business. At the same time, he ensures that there's a reasonable security built in. Okay, and that's the major challenge. I think it's a really thin walk that he has to do. Now, when it comes to how to deal with this complexity, it's very overwhelming for CISOs. And what I see is that you have to look at what exactly you are trying to protect here. Okay. So obviously my core would be the source code of my application, which should be secure. It should not get leaked. That is your primary motive. The second would be that your application should be secure and no data from the application should be exposed, correct? That's, if you see, these are the two core issues for a CISO. Apart from that, what are the operational things are fine, but strategically, if I think, these are the two core issues. Now, when I look at these two core issues and look at the question that has been raised today, that what exactly you should focus or prioritize, what I see is that I would certainly not like to have my keys to the kingdom, to a hacker, right? Correct? I need to protect my keys. So what are the keys mainly? Certainly there are hard-coded keys in the applications, API keys which are publicly probably available. Okay, I want to restrict those. Okay, so, and identities. Today, identity is a major threat on cloud or maybe even these API keys, etc. Any hacker, if they get hold of it, a simple misconfiguration in the cloud can get him into the application. So one priority would be certainly is that securing the secret keys. I can rotate, I can ensure they're not hard-coded, I can ensure they use a vault, etc. There are so many mechanisms available today to use it. Obviously, there is a lot of effort because we see that even today also there are applications which has those secret keys. So you can use native tools like AWS Secret Manager to do that, or you can use certain vault mechanisms to do it. My second priority would be the runtime security, because ultimately, whatever you do to secure, maybe you look at the vulnerabilities, maybe you change the culture of the coders, and you use, if you are downloading codes from the internet, they have its own vulnerabilities. You use tools to ensure it's secure. Still, there would be certain threats which will still exist. So my runtime security becomes a key. I mean, once your application is touching internet, obviously you have to ensure that it is secure. So it could be that you implement your CNAP so that your cloud misconfigurations are taken care of. Then it could be that CWPP, the CNAP will consist of CWPP as well. Okay. Then second thing would be your WAF. That becomes one of the first frontliner protection for your applications, and continuous monitoring through SIEM, API security, etc., and bots. So I think these two priorities, if I look at, first thing is handling the secret and identities, and second thing is runtime security, should give you a fair, answer to the question and security assurance to the management.
Yeah, thank you. Before moving to Prasad, I am in sync with you. Being a CISO, I can understand. Like we have to balance the business as well as the application team. We need to work together with the application team to achieve that particular team, considering all the security parameters to be implemented. Yeah, Prasad, the same question if you can have.
Basically, I completely agree with what Shrikant and Anup has said. Currently, the situation in the business is something like where business is asking very fast deliveries from developers as well as from the IT. And the challenge for any CIO as well as for an enterprise architect or engineer is to deliver those things very fast. While we do this, at the same time, we have to also see from security standpoint what we are going to achieve as from a security standpoint. As rightly said by Anup, it is more from how are your secure CI/CD pipelines are, how secure you are doing your secret management. Currently, I can share my experience from my own organization where even today, when we are completely on cloud native, our secrets are being managed within the repositories, within the Git repos or our master branches, which is very dangerous thing from a security standpoint. So we have to scan our all the security secrets from the code and move it to the proper vaults so that it will not be compromised. Second thing as an enterprise architect and engineer, I would say that my focus or organization focus from a security standpoint should be more on preventing exposure to catastrophic exposure, I would say, from by securing our code as well as our repositories and ultimately the outcome.
Thanks, Prasad. So, moving to the next question, this to Vina. Developers are often pressurized or overwhelmed by the security finding, what they get from the team. So how can organizations separate actionable risk from the noise and build greater trust in the application AppSec tool or the process, AppSec process?
Question? Audible? Yeah. So generally we blame developer community, that they're quite, not good at fixing all the security vulnerabilities. But we never think about the tools that we use. They every single scan throw thousands and thousands of vulnerabilities. So as an organization, probably we have built a 3-layer funnel model for our developers. So the very first is like volume to relevance. So whatever tool that you have been using, like in our organization, we have been using SNCC. So you probably, when developer is kind of checking in the code into that repository, you need to talk about, whether the application is internet facing, whether it is exposing any or dealing with any kind of critical data, the customer journeys, and then it is basically called a volume to relevance. So basically you have thousands of alerts for that repo, but does it really expose anything? If not, you definitely need to look at, as both of my peer panelists mentioned, that if it is secret management, if it is identity access management, if it is dealing with sensitive data, then prioritize those alerts first. So those are not the false positive alerts, I would say. Then the next level, which comes in, is non-negotiables. Like you need to look at, again, out of those alerts, that whether high and critical vulnerabilities which are exploitable immediately, go ahead and fix it. For basically the medium ones, you can have a plan, and for low ones, you can use it as a guideline. The third layer is definitely goes back to helping developers, because when pull request is raised, GitHub code commit is done, and then DAS starts running, or the SAST starts running, basically the static code screening, then getting back to IDE and fixing them becomes difficult. So as they code, try and integrate these tools into their IDEs, which can immediately fix the problems then and there. So this 3-layer approach has definitely helped our organization that we are kind of doing the right alert fatigue management there. Yeah, and whoever is hacker in the room knows now that Aditya Birla has secrets in GitHub. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Vina. Harshit, question, the same question to you, but we would like to hear from you being an OEM. You are meeting different leaders from different industry, BFSI, manufacturing, other banks, and so if you can give your inputs on how your approach is and what are the client expecting from them.
Sure. Thanks a lot. So I've like definitely I think with the evolution of AI, the AppSec has evolved, and last 10 years have been very like different for AppSec. I think if we used to look at AppSec 3 to 4 years back, detection or vulnerability scanning was at the peak where companies did not have visibility on what are the vulnerabilities and all. As we moved to at least 1.5 years back, I think every team was overwhelmed with the number of issues or vulnerabilities in their bucket that they need to fix. And there comes the entry of AI, which complicated the AppSec to next level. The release velocity that a lot of companies and CIOs, and I think while I was speaking with Vina and few other panelists over here, I realized that there has been a consistent push, not only over here, while we speak with a lot of other companies also, not heavily regulated, like banking is still very thoughtful in how they are adapting AI, but a lot of other industries like retail and all have been super aggressive on how they are pushing AI. Internally, every team is using all possible tools, Claude, Windsor, to build apps. So it's just getting overwhelming for their AppSec team to keep up with the pace of development. And with that, the scanners are adding to the noise with a lot of vulnerabilities that they're detecting. So it is just making it very difficult for AppSec teams to figure out what they need to really look at and take action on. And that is where AI is also something that is enabling these AppSec teams. And I think we do have a wonderful list of vendors over here. A lot of them also are using AI to increase the contextuality of those vulnerabilities. And as Vina mentioned, first and most important for any of the team is to get clarity on what are the non-negotiables, like Anup mentioned, hard-coded keys and all are very important. So you just say that, okay, these are non-negotiables. Any critical issue which is exploitable, for example, and exploitability is a wonderful aftermath of AI, where every scanner is able to tell that the vulnerability that we are highlighting, not only from CVSS score, but is it really exploitable? And if it is exploitable and critical, is something that has to be fixed first rather than something that is critical and not exploitable. So with all of that context, the noise can be reduced significantly if companies are at a AppSec maturity where they know what are these non-negotiables, followed by what are my critical vulnerabilities and what are exploitables. And that is where you start prioritizing what needs to be fixed first, and you just reduce the noise. And again, using AI, the other benefit is fixing those issues can also be done using Claude and different tools. So if the remediation is also contextual with respect to how the issue is detected, what is the exploitability, it's very easy to fix those issues. And definitely keeping human in loop. I think that's still going to take some time where we just leave it on AI to detect, fix, and push it out. But yes, with human in loop, I've seen a lot of enterprises maturing into their AppSec process where they're able to zero down on what needs to be fixed and how it needs to be fixed. And with respect to regulated sectors like banking and government and all, I think they're still figuring out what those guardrails has to be, and they're slowly adopting. And again, I'm not saying that that is across all the banking and government. A lot of them are also in that mode where they have figured out what those guardrails are, or they've created their own containers of AI co-pilots that the team is able to use. But yes, I think it'll take a little more time for them to get started, because I think the data that they're handling is more critical.
Yeah, thanks, Harshit. We are truly said
Sorry, just to add on to
Sure.
Harsh's point, I mean, see, velocity is not a concern at all. I mean, sooner or later, we will have the complete agentic system working for us and doing some kind of things for us. And the effectiveness of AI, what we have at the moment, will not be the same maybe 5 years or 10 years down the line. And that could be some kind of repetitive process as long as you have the same model, same data sets, and all those things. But that invisible the layer, what we usually don't see, that CIO or CTO and then CISO and now the DPO, the sense of responsibility, the accountability, and at the same time the urgency. That is something which is missing. Once we have that everything sync, I think most of the issues will easily get resolved. Application security, the way we have been doing application security will not remain the same as it is. Probably down the line, agentic system, the complete agents will do the complete development of your application, testing and validation, verification with the regulatory and compliance. But then that sense of responsibility and accountability, it remains something, and that is what the ask of board. The board asks who is taking or leading this show to execution.
True. So I was supposed to cover that particular point, but I too feel that yes, down the line everything will be agentic AI and is going to play a major role. But what I also feel as a security person is that all the organizations should be taking a baby steps towards it and not just jump adopting everything and not able to manage at a particular level. So there is a human involvement with AI also, but that should be taken as a baby step. You should understand the impact. The application team, security team should be able to have that impact assessment done before jumping into and adopting the whole framework of AI. And you may be having it going smoothly today, but with AI it will be more complicated. So I feel that it should be baby step towards AI. Okay, coming to Datta again. How do you build AppSec platform that provide orchestration, context-aware insight, and one-click remediation? We can keep it brief, that's fine.
See, this question is very hypothetical question at the moment, considering the fact that we all know what we really need as far as application security is concerned. We need to have some kind of visibility, orchestration, the execution, and everything. But the bullseye, I mean, what is that one thing which we are doing to the requirement? Is something what, if I have to really evaluate the solution from the CISO and DPO perspective, I would rather see that what kind of process we have, I mean, and what kind of solution can really fit into that. 2-3 years back, we were discussing DevOps, now DevSecOps. Now we keep that aside, we talk about pre-sec DevOps. Now do we really have to have those things in applications and the technology? The answer is yes. How do we have that built up into the application is something that OEM has to think of and give us some kind of inputs so that we can think of, we can have the internal discussion and provide some kind of inputs to the OEM for the better application. But answer to your question that yes, we have to have some kind of orchestration, good visibility, and the kind of blast radius of what we can really assume and see. If we can do all those things with the path analysis and all those things, I think that kind of suffices the purpose of CISO.
Harshit, your views?
So, I think I agree with Mr. Dattatray on the contextuality bit. And with AI, I think I briefly covered it, where we are able to add more context of exploitability. And apart from it, I think the added parameter to any AppSec, matured AppSec program is also identifying the asset class, if the apps are external or internal facing, and a lot of the parameters with respect to how the issues have to be prioritized are based on some of the added contextual capabilities. And then I think the maturity of the AppSec team in able to fix that using AI again. I don't think there is way for a human to fix issues for apps that are built by AI. It has to be done by AI if apps are getting built by AI. So yes, I think it has to be embedded in the system, and any scanning engine that you pick today has to come with all of those added layers where it has to give you more context, it has to give you a AI-ready fixes, and these are must-have for any AppSec tool.
Thank you. So, Vina, back to you. As Gen AI accelerates software development, how can organization strike the right balance between the innovation and the security through automated guardrails or governance mechanism?
So, from our organization perspective, basically when we started with AI, so it was maybe 9 months or 3 quarters ago when we started with bringing AI tools into SDLC. We call this as Olympiad series for us, which is kind of a learning platform for us. Wherein very first we kind of crashed into to see that what kind of benefits are there. We realized that benefits were there, but we were kind of trying to run F1 engine into some kind of normal car. We didn't have guardrails, the standards which were fed into AI, and we failed there, I would say, very badly. The kind of code was generated. There were lots of vulnerabilities, not following our standards and guardrails. And that's where our learning was, that bringing AI is good, but let's fix the basics there. And we started focusing on the guardrails. We started focusing on the standards. We started building the generic prompt banks or standardized prompt banks for our engineers and not relying on their prompting skills. Basically, working very closely with cyber teams, having right prompts to guide that what kind of open source libraries are to be used, the latest versions, what are the organization level guidelines, etc. So that was our input to AI. Very recently, we did this Olympiad 2.0, which was mainly around SDLC blueprint standardization. After that, we have seen kind of lots of benefits. So input is sorted. Now we need to also, kind of look at the output of the AI. So we need to just treat it as human written code and review every single bit there. While with AI, you can easily give all the guidelines. You can ask AI to fix the things, OWASP, etc. And there are lots of other specific guidelines that you can use for. So output is also something which could be taken care of. While bringing in these tools, basically you also need to see that you are not leaking your data, you're not leaking the information that you should not be to these models. And that's what is something that we have been working on, that we have probably 45% engineering population, which is software engineer and below, and rest all are leads. So we are also kind of looking at enhancing the skills there, that how exactly they would understand what's IP and what's not IP, basically the generic information, and accordingly feed into AI. So all these security guidelines that we have been taking care of, and now going to productionize all the code that we have generated in past 6 months. And this is not only for our platforms, this is also for our operations teams like HRSSE, finance teams, compliance teams. So build some bots for them, which is also giving a good turnaround. And in terms of security, we have built the guardrails good, so we didn't rush into, and that's a lesson learned for Travelex here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks Shrikant, and thanks Vina. I will pick up from what Vina just said. So with Liberty, we have seen this particular problem from a 3 layers perspective. One is input, how you are going to secure input, how you are going to secure your model, which is actually running and taking the data from the inputs. And third is output, how you are going to secure your output as well. So when we talk about input, that is my CI/CD pipelines, we already talked about that. But from a prompt perspective, when we give the prompt, so what we thought through is that we are rather building a layer on top of whenever we are getting the prompt, intercept the prompt, look at the prompt from various the kind of inputs we are getting from a user, verify that input, and then provide that input to the model so that model will not hallucinate or will not provide any kind of result which is out of the context. That's the input validation. While we look at the models has been tested as from PII data as well, because PII data is very important from prompt perspective. So that interception and that layer which we build will also look at the prompt from PII data, remove the PII data from the prompt, and then provide it to the model for working. Now, model hallucination is another problem. So how we are going to secure that? We are still working on that, frankly speaking, and we are still not find the right answer for that. The last but not the least is output. From an output perspective, we try to see if any output which is going to come as a, let's say, JSON structure from the model, then whether it is really giving me JSON structure or it is giving me some kind of a different text. That kind of validations we are trying to build into our overall pipeline so that we can test and verify whether the output is also correct. So this is how we are looking at the problem statement.
So the question is about how AI is going to help guardrails, etc.
So how AI accelerates software development and how the organization can strike the balance between the innovation and security?
So I'll just give you an example. So I was working with Phatnaik and actually looking at G account. And we have this application development team who used to develop softwares. And G had a very thorough secure coding guidelines, okay? It's a very huge 200 pages document. Everything was well documented and mentioned. And the developers obviously were from Phatnaik. And so this document, as a security lead, I used to give them and tell them that adhere to this particular document. And since there were friends also in the team, we are not going to look at that document at all, because if we start looking at 200 pages document, we probably may not be able to deliver the product that G is asking for us. So that time it struck to me that ultimately developer doesn't have that mindset of security at all. It is very difficult for them to get it because there are very different pressures on them that to deliver the product, because that's their core job. And I used to always imagine that how can I offload this particular aspect from developers? Because buck stop with them ultimately. So even the CISO or maybe business, everybody will say, if there is any issue, it is the developer who has done it, correct? And I think AI is something which I feel is becoming really good for them. I will mention the two sides of the coin, obviously, but I see that AI really helps developers now. Now that aspect, for example, if they are, one thing is coding, obviously they have now the LLMs to do it for them, and they have to just customize it. Second thing is that vulnerability prioritization comes with multiple tools that they are using. Prioritization also comes in. Third thing is that when they want to make certain changes, okay, or even when they want to fix certain things, now AI can run a simulation and tell them that where the application is breaking, the dependencies and all. I think that's a huge gain for the developers. Now he doesn't have to think. Maybe he has to verify, obviously, but ultimately the simulation gives them okay, these are the dependencies that could break. I think that is a real good thing for the developers to move ahead and focus on the business logic that they want to build in. That's the benefit of the AI. Obviously, the cons could be from a CISO perspective that the LLMs they are using probably do they have any malicious content into it, or are they uploading any data? As Vina rightly mentioned, data privacy becomes a critical aspect, or data security becomes a critical aspect to it. But in all, I think AI is a great enabler, okay, for coding, because ultimately, to large extent, it empowers the developers. Second thing which I feel is that the struggle, which I mentioned earlier also, of training the coders. You cannot train a development team sitting in a classroom for 1 and 2 hours and then ask them that, okay, now you have become security expert, now you start developing secure coding. It doesn't happen that way. What AI does is that now at every specific task, it can intervene. It can give the developers the instructions what exactly they need to do. There are videos that it can run specific to the context that they are currently developing. So I think it is a hand-holding that the AI does nowadays, and I really appreciate the teams, the product teams who have developed these kind of products now, which really, maybe as Dattatray said, they will evolve eventually. Today we are having some challenges. Sudhir mentioned that 51% of the guys are still working on AI, fixing AI issues, correct? So I think those will go down eventually, and probably we will get a more clear idea on how exactly the software development takes place. But in all, I see there is a very positive this thing.
Agree. I believe AI is definitely going to help the development community, and but looking from the security side, also the threat assessment should be periodically done for any kind of enhancement they are making to a particular application. That should be there. Secondly, it should be highlighted to the management. It should not be within the, it should be taken to the board that this is the development which you are making. We are using AI for this particular activities, and this is the threat. So the risk should not lie with the application head or the CISO team. It should be taken to the board, and the board should be equally responsible to take that step forward what the business asks. So it's not one person responsible within in an organization. That was the trend going on for years. Now that should change, and it should be top to bottom approach where management accepts what is there and what the gap is, and then take it ahead.
So frankly speaking, I would like to bring the IRDA as well as regulatory aspect into the picture. Nowadays, IRDA for at least insurance, they are making it mandatory for us to do AppSec every year, mandatorily, and there is a proper SLAs has been provided for critical, very critical, and high vulnerabilities to be resolved. So we have to bring in organization as
we both are worked earlier together, and both are from insurance sector. So we know IRDA with the new guidelines in 26, they have included the coverage of internal and external application to be part of the BAPT, and everything should be mandatory. Earlier it was not. Good things are happening from the regulator side. It pushes there. So definitely they are considering security as a top notch right now. Yeah, so that's from my end to all panelists. I would request if any of the audience, they want to ask question. Yeah. You pass the mic.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite, Quantic team. So I'm Palash. I'm from a company called LearningMate. We specialize in the edtech sector. So with all due respect for all the panelists, a quick question. All of us have heard of the threat modeling exercise, right? That used to happen during our software development part. How is that changing with the AI era coming in? Like, what are the changes that is expected? Do we still go back to the more different models, right? Which used to use like Stride past each of these frameworks. So if you can just throw some light on that, that's one question. And the second question is like specifically, I think ma'am mentioned around the AI maturity level for developers. How do we gauge that, yes, they're actually using the AI and actually getting the benefits as an ROI? The first question is on the threat model.
I can take the second one. So I think with respect to AI maturity of developers, and this was also the point where, like we mentioned, when it comes to the vulnerabilities that are going out. So earlier when developer used to code, we used to know that, okay, this line of code has been written by this developer. With AI, it's very difficult, and it's AI that is building the app. So pointing out where exactly someone has goofed up, and definitely with guardrails that can be enhanced and made sure that developers are able to. But more importantly, as I think Anup had mentioned that there are a lot of platforms that are also enabling developers, and that is where you have to make sure that shift left is thing of yesterday, but like JFrog, the team was here, they were mentioning. So a lot of tools like that can help developers make sure that while they are building using AI, it can be checked at that early phase and fixed while they are building, and that is where the security side of maturity will come into. How matured is your AppSec program? With respect to the guardrails, apart from that, as Vina had mentioned, that a lot of companies where it's highly regulated, I think it's a thoughtful guardrail approach that is recommended. Companies are taking both the route, I think what Anup mentioned, that where they are just releasing it versus Vina said, we are figuring out how we should do, and slowly in a quarter we'll get started with adopting AI aggressively. So there is no wrong or right. I think eventually we'll get to know what works, but there are companies in both the buckets which are evaluating how they should let the teams start using AI to push out to release apps more aggressively.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so the question was more around like you have developers, right? A developer would want to probably become an AI-assisted developer. You give him all the tools. But at the end of the day, right, how do you measure that they're actually utilizing it to the extent that's possible? So that was a
I think
bit
it's
of
too
question.
early for that. I would say right now what teams are doing is they are just giving them access.
Correct.
And then looking at how it is improving the productivity, increasing the complexity. And I think, yeah.
Okay.
So just to add there, we have started measuring the productivity of our engineers since last 1 quarter. So as he mentioned that, we do not have certain tools to measure that, but then we can definitely ask for developer experience. So whenever a developer is moving the story, on the board, definitely they can talk about the story points. They can talk about that initially it was taking 10 days for them to deliver. With AI, it's now 5 days, something like that. So we have got dashboards, across the Scrum teams, which we have been presenting to management, because it is people who have been using it are talking about it. But then it goes back to the quality of the code, the rework that we need to do, the reviews that happens, and that again gets captured as negative productivity. So basically it is somewhere around 15 to 20% productivity improvement, which is a net improvement, while developer can claim 60 to 80%.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think your first question was the threat hunting and modeling, right? So nowadays the threat hunting modeling, it is as effective as you can see from the lens of AI. You have AI who is providing all the detections, showing you the vulnerabilities, and on the other side you have all the frameworks, tried, pasta, fair. Qualitative analysis and quantitative analysis is something what we have been doing. So we have to see how best we can leverage the AI to see the detections and then the effectiveness of those things. How best we can have them quantifiable with the help of framework, and understand the value, how much we are actually losing, the probable cost of that we can lose, and have your risk mitigation plan in place. That is something which you can do at the moment. Unless and until you do not have the AI defender in place, you cannot have the AI attacks, whatever you have, and measure them in a manner which you can really present and have some kind of the mitigation plan in place. So cyber insurance is something which you can really opt for when you have absolutely nothing to defend those attacks.
Thank
Right.
you.
Do we still have time for one more question? I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, thanks a lot. Me and my colleague were taking notes and discussing a lot of points that you guys were saying exactly. It was correlated to a recent discussion we just had before this panel. So thanks for that. And some of you said things which aligned with what we spoke as well. My question, I don't want to throw a curveball at you, but purely from a business perspective, I want to understand, because some of you are CEOs, CISOs, from engineering verticals as well, what drives as an organization in terms of managing security for you? Okay, let me rephrase that question. When government brings in DPDP Act or certain, and then these compliances need to be followed, or you need to maintain SBOM and things like that, that forces you to, plan how do you need to manage your security and what it, or within your organizations, you have your own best practices. I'm trying to understand how do different organizations react towards managing security. Yes, AI is a completely different animal right now with more code coming in. I just want to understand how you guys take it.
I can take that. So both the things, what you said, like regulatory requirement as well as the best practice. That's a combination of both we have. But regulatory requirement often overrides our best practices. We may have certain things in place. We may have planned certain things, but regulatory requirement year on year, they understand the threat landscape, the new threat vector which are coming into the industry, they change it. And automatically it gets implemented. We have to implement. There is no choice when it's coming from regulator or from a DPDPA standpoint right now. We have to implement. There is no choice. So that's how we move. I mean, anybody has certain views we can.
I will take them than you. So the way we handle this overall stuff in Liberty is we are basically a US-based organization. So with them, we have to go and abide by all the Wiz scans. Wiz gives me daily thousands of vulnerabilities, which is humongous task for me to manage and solve that, number one. Number two, on a regulatory side, we are also, as Shrikant said, we have to perform VAPT scans every year. And that too, with internal audits, we have to every quarter and 6 monthly, we have to still do white box and black box testing. So with this all coming in picture, the security, vulnerabilities, and the issues solving become a huge task for us. As rightly said during our discussion, we have to really identify which are the critical, very critical, and which is actually noise. So that noise has to be cut down, and we have to get into the resolving the very critical defects on a priority. So that is how we manage. At the same time, we have to manage our business requirements too, while we are managing all these things. So this is how we manage it.
Add one line there, from our perspective, how we have been managing, while AI is, fast pacing, we have policies on documents, but that was not enough. So we kind of did all the regulatory standards and policies. We embedded it in the code automation. So our templates are taking care of all the regulatory requirements. And at the same time, our coding standards and best practices is basically fed into AI. And the skeletons and scaffolding, of these repositories, wherein it is taken care of. So not relying on individual who is using AI tool, but mainly embedding that into the template, yeah.
One thing which I will add is that obviously, as my fellow panelist has mentioned, that regulation does add a push. But typically, it also depends upon what industry you are into and what data you are handling. And if you are part of a big group like us, like Aditya Birla, it comes by default. There is no choice, because ultimately, if there is a reputational damage, there is a damage across all the businesses that we are into. So obviously, the push for cybersecurity, information security comes by default because of the entire landscape that we have into. Regulatory does help. But what I see is that regulation also does help to create the right kind of ecosystem that you want to. With the data privacy coming in now, I can demand certain safeguards to be there with my third-party vendor, right? If they doesn't have the right kind of safeguards, right kind of controls, I may not consider them. That makes him to do certain things. He says, okay, 3 महीने में कर दूंगा sir. DLP डालना है मैं डाल दूंगा, आपको दिखा दूंगा, report भी दिखा दूंगा. So that way the ecosystem changes, and accordingly you will have more secure ecosystem around that helps you to grow.
Just to add quickly, I mean, if you ask the question like how you actually see security in your organization, so it is all about the risk tolerance level, what we have, our spending capacity, and the kind of confidence board really has. And these 3 parameters really help us out to understand, think, and execute security in an organization. And everything revolves around that. I mean, be it application security, cloud security, code to cloud, AI, anything to everything. I mean, it is all about those three factors only. So in every quarter, you have to face the board by saying that this is where we are standing and this is what we are going to do. And it is all about that only.
Yeah, thank you. Sir, you made us all answer with your question. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Any more questions? Right. Yeah, fine. Thank you.